jumping back and forth to the 10,000 elevation and come back down. There are about three elements in terms of a model for successful personal ministry work. I use this for Went Right Into. You got basically three circles. It's ideal to have all three, right? But to really make a structured personal ministries program, whether it's giving Bible studies or relational stuff, you need these three elements. It doesn't matter what you do, all three of them need to be combined. These things we're talking about, the real truth lessons. The first element, it needs to be organized.
Okay.
Structured, right? This is the structure circle. Organization or some form of structure. And this model works for businesses or ministries, it doesn't matter. And this has to do, you remember we were talking earlier about where Jesus encouraged folk to sit down in companies of 50? That's this circle. Right?
Oh,
that's what that is. You got to be organized.
Okay.
Right? You got to organize if you're going out or whether you're doing something that's in the church.
Yeah, sure.
And then the second element of any program, you have to be relational. You got to be relational. That's what you're talking about. Just talking to your friend, giving an opportunity to share. That's what we're talking about. Gaining 5 to 7 significant friendships in the church. Right? That's another element. You need organizational structure. We need to be relational. And of course, when Jesus, in the feeding of the 5,000, he'd been out there all day long, right? Teaching and preaching. Matter of fact, the reason why the crowd followed him out there is because he had been in relationship with them even prior to that day. He'd been teaching another. They followed him out to the desert.
All right, sir.
Right? So that's an example of relational ministry. You got to be organized, structured. You got to have relationships, and then you need resources. We cannot, for whatever reason, we can't get away from this. You got to have resources, right? You need resources for a couple of reasons. You need resources for the organization, for the structure, for anything. I mean, just think about it. Even if something simple as a men's group, men's breakfast on Sunday morning.
Okay.
You're shooting for a relationship because you realize you can't win souls with folks you don't know. And even after people join the church, you want to continue that nurturing for new believers. But more often than not, you need a structure to do it. You want to continue the relational aspect, but oftentimes it does take resources, right? If you're going to have a breakfast, you need food.
Okay.
Who's buying it? You need a lot of volunteers. Oh yeah. I was at an event with the Chamber of Commerce between Birmingham and Huntsville. They're my client there, and we had a banquet, an annual meeting, and they asked a preacher to do the opening prayer. Now, this banquet was not the kind of banquet that our folk. They had alcohol, all kinds of stuff. Gambling tables and all the whole 9 yards, right? So, the director of the agency thought he was kidding when he said, "How much time do I have?" Oh, she said, "Take 5 minutes." She was just kidding. When you're asked to do, by the way, this is an aside, whether you're a pastor or a member, if you're asked to do an opening prayer at an event, especially if it's not one of our events, you know what you do when you get up there? What do you do?
Short and simple.
Just pray. That's all. Shall we bow? I was a chaplain for the state of Mississippi. We did some orientation, and one of the things they told us was just that. You're not preaching in your sermon. You don't have to give any opening remarks. But this guy gave opening remarks. He's from the Church of the Nazarene. And they're just as conservative as we are. And so in a sly, subtle way, but it was very obvious to all, that he was condemning and putting down the use of alcohol at this event.
Well, I can't do that.
the main sponsor of the event was an insurance company. The lady who owned the insurance company came to the meeting drunk.
Oh, no.
This just happened last week. I came here from that event.
That's wild.
Okay, so she has a drink in her hand while he's talking and condemning. She holds up her glass. She said, "You preach, you talk, you say it." He didn't know anybody there. That was not the most helpful thing to do. But getting back to your thought, he shared this story. He said, old preacher story. I'm sure you guys have heard it. He said, "Let the church crawl." And everybody in the church said, "Oh, amen, preacher, let the church crawl." This is a story he told. And then he said, "Let the church walk." And folks said, "Amen, preacher, let it walk." He said, "I heard somebody say, let the church run." And everybody started getting happy. "Oh yeah, let it run, let it run, let it run." And then the preacher said, "Well, in order for the church to run, we're going to need some money." One of the old deacons said, "Let it crawl." Why he told that story before the opening prayer is beside me. I have no idea what that had to do with anything related to anything. Huh?
Was it fundraiser?
No, it was just a regular annual meeting. A lot of the chambers are nonprofit organizations. And by the way, what chambers are to business owners is what labor unions are to the workers.
I don't understand.
They promote.
Yeah, they promote business.
Oh.
Yeah, they promote business, but they promote the ownership side, at least from what I see. But the whole point is, I remember that story because he was talking about let the church run. He told that joke. I was thinking about resources. Churches we need money. You know, how we need all three of these elements. You cannot. I don't care if it's a church-wide event or if it's just a committee or a department in your church, whether it's personal ministries or otherwise. In order for your program to be successful, and there is no, tried, true, and sealed method, right? Whatever program you have, it's up to you. Now, there are biblical principles we ought to follow. And I think these principles are here. I think we've established some of those today. That you got to have structure. You got to be relational. That ought to be the goal, right? To be relational. But in order to do both of those, you've got to have resources. So that's, again, whatever you're planning in your church locally in terms of outreach or inreach, you want to plan with these three elements in mind. I think that's all I have.
Now, we're getting ready to, we have an event in Charlotte, the CIAA, and we have Steps for Christ, and we're getting ready to go down there on certain days and give us Steps to Christ. Can you help, can you show me how this model will work for what we want to do?
Be happy to. Beautiful. But you said you're sharing Steps to Christ.
Right.
Where?
At the CIAA. It's like a basketball tournament, and they have it over a period of 3 days.
Like colleges?
Yeah.
So I take it this is not an Adventist.
No.
Okay.
Is it the Win magazine that we're using?
No,
Is that the sports
Steps to
venue?
Christ. No, it's the winning. Yeah, the win. Let's
Yeah,
win.
that's what we're using
Let's
at the
win.
sports events as souvenirs. We're giving them out as souvenirs. Major sports events. I have tons of boxes for you if you need it. But I know what you're talking about. That's what. Yes. Yeah.
I changed these two around. It's the same thing. I don't need to.
Not tons of boxes, but I have a lot.
Okay. The goal. What's the goal? The goal is to just share.
Yeah, the
The
share.
Steps to Christ at this event.
Right. And then the share, and then we're going to, hopefully we'll get some of the college students in our area,
Yeah.
Like Johnson C. Smith,
Yeah.
to visit our church of Cole also.
So the event will be held at the school, not at the school.
No, it'll be held at, a
Coliseum.
stadium,
But your target audience are the students who attend.
Right. Right.
Beautiful. Thank you. That's a beautiful example. Let's look at all three of these. Organizationally, what do we need to do? Is this a church event or is it personal
Well,
ministry
it's a
sponsored?
church event. We're trying to get people from our church
Yeah.
to go there on certain days
Uh-huh.
to give out the books.
Okay, okay. So we're gonna need to coordinate, right? Yeah. Now, is this something that you want publicized in the community or just kind of done internally?
Right, internally in our church.
Okay, okay. So we need to talk about marketing, internal marketing,
Okay.
right? Now, in terms of, and what I'm talking to you, this is the stuff that I mean, you're in my element now. We're there. There are 8 components that any organization or ministry needs to be successful. And one of those important elements is marketing. Just like this event. Let me tell you, I'm glad to see you guys. But I'll do this for 2 people. I'll do this for a half a person. He said, like my brother said, if a half a person showed up, I love this stuff because I'm gonna tell you why. The overall goal for what we do in the church. Now, I'm just gonna wait to tell you. I do this for businesses. I have people call me every day wanting to start a business. I tell them the same thing. And what's interesting is that they have secular ideas in mind. There's nothing wrong with that, right? They're temporal. They're trying to make money. They're trying to, maybe offer a service or a product. But what has been frustrating for me is that the level of excellence that they bring to the table pales in comparison to the stuff we do. What I mean by that is we just don't operate with a spirit of excellence in terms of what we do. We need to do better. The folks the people that are in business and trying to make money, money will burn. Jesus is coming. All that stuff is going to burn up. They don't have an eternal purpose in mind. We got an eternal purpose. So when we approach a venue or an event, we have to do it with the same level of excellence that people who don't have an eternal purpose in mind, they put us to shame sometimes. And let me tell you, I learned that after I left the ministry. I had folks come to my office. I had an office in Huntsville. And they would ask about, things they need to put together. I sit on committees of boards of non-religious organizations. And you know what they did? I'll never forget this, Ellen, for you. One of the earlier boards I sat on, I was a board member. They would send me all of the documents that I needed to make an informed decision at that meeting 2 weeks before the meeting started.
Mercy.
I had the board agenda, I'd have the minutes of the meeting, I have all of that stuff, and it was sent electronically, it was sent by hard copy. So that when we came, we started on time, we dealt with the agenda, we didn't have any stuff going off to the side, meetings to the side. We were sitting there waiting for a quorum. We knew we were there to do business. And it was not for eternal purposes. It was something community related, whatever it was. The reason why I was so frustrated with that, I had to ask God for forgiveness for all of those board meetings that I was responsible for.
That's right.
And we were doing that, man. We were waiting for folk to show up. Didn't know if they would or not. And sometimes I'd be late. Sometimes I'd make excuses. I remember I went to, and I'm not, this spirit of excellence. It's not just in secular society. I work with churches all over the country. I went to a church on a prayer meeting night. You couldn't find a parking space in there. The reason why, the pastor was doing a series on Wednesday night. I'm going to tell you what church it was. We were in Dallas, Texas. What's the preacher's name? Jake's is the most popular guy there now, but before Jake's, Tony Evans. The Urban Alternative.
Yeah, I remember.
I work with that ministry, right? They're a partner with another nonprofit I worked with. So I went to Texas often and visited with them. I went there on a Wednesday night, and one of the associate pastors, a friend of mine, told me, he said, look, I ain't trying to be funny. He said, but you probably want to get there early. They had police officers directing traffic on Wednesday night.
Wow.
When Tony Evans came out there to speak, it was like a regular service. They had ushers, and everything was timed on spot. And I remember about 5:30, prayer meeting started at 7, sitting, scrambling, trying to pull stuff together on Wednesday night prayer meeting. The folk didn't know what was happening because I didn't know what was happening. And we wonder, why our folks don't come out for stuff? Why don't we operate with the same spirit of excellence that folk who don't know what we know, and folk in the world know? They do it for secular reasons. They do it for stuff that's not going to last. I just want to challenge us. Let's I don't know how I got up in that. Anyway, the illustration, right? You got the program. You know what you want to do. Marketing is one of the marketing is one of the 8 key components. Not this is something totally different. Of a successful business or ministry. You've got to get the marketing in. And you can't do the marketing right, and I love this brother here. And I said I am not at all, discombobulated by our turnout. That was not your fault. But one of the things I think we can do, I don't know who we need to talk to in the conference office. If you want to, I'll talk to them for you because, I'm not on payroll. I don't be happy to do it. to help them get this together. And it has nothing to do with me or with anything else. If there's some information that's available to help grow and build the kingdom, it's too important not to get the word out. When I would run an evangelistic meeting, my deal with the Lord would be this: Lord, I'm going to do all I can to make sure everybody knows about opening night. On opening night, it's going to be your job to keep it. Use me to keep it. If a person doesn't show up for a meeting, it shouldn't be because they hadn't heard of that.
All right, sir.
It ought to be because, they just chose not to go, or there's a conflict in their schedule. But there's no reason in this day and time, with the technology that we have, for folk not to get the word.
That's right. That's right.
And I will tell you, I'm working now again with folk all around the country who operate with that spirit of excellence. I mean, I've seen folk get fired over little stuff like that, not having stuff in order. Marketing. How are we going to market this event? If we're going to do it internally, if it's going to be an internal thing, it's not going to be difficult. If it was something that required marketing outside, what I would love to just share with, I'll share this with all of you. There are plenty of venues. There are plenty of ways to market events that don't cost a lot of money. And there's ways you can get it done. For example, a PSA, a public service announcement. You can do those on radio and you can do them on TV. But guess what else? You also can connect with your local radio or television station, or even your United Way. They do them all the time. Every community has one. Bring somebody in to do a training workshop for your church on how to put together a PSA. Your clerks, whoever else, it doesn't matter. Have someone in your church train and bring somebody in to do it. They don't have to believe like us if they know what they're doing. Right? Get them to, hey, we're going to have a little class with a few folk, and and let me tell you, you want to have an impact. Your church wants to have an impact in your community. You want to raise the level of your influence in your community. The way you do it is by connecting them.
That's
You've got to connect with them. And find out the communication channels, because they're out there. We're the radio station, the television stations. If we have a major event in our church, why not advertise it the way everybody else does? This circle is no excuse for this. There are too many free forms of advertising out there. Social media. One of the things I do for the chamber is do seminars all year long. I'm doing a seminar next week on social media, how to grow your business using social media and Facebook. Why can't the church do that? Did your church have a Facebook account? You do? Do you use it? Who manages it? Yeah. Yeah, we got to work on that though. Because let me tell you, it's another avenue to share the gospel.
That's right.
But you got to know how to use it.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because our church does have a Facebook page.
Yeah.
And we have a great and wonderful communications department that has a lot of great ideas. Well, this week, I was talking to a young man. He's in the military, married. Him and his wife are expecting their first son sometime, if he hasn't come yet, by Monday. And I was just talking to him. And it's interesting because I know there's a lot of busy young adults whose schedules don't allow them to come to, Wednesday night, don't allow them to come to, but if we have something on Sunday, or even, afternoon, Saturday. So I was thinking, it would be nice. And I know I've discovered there's a lot of things on YouTube, there's a lot of social media. We even have very talented people within our church congregation. I'm like, it'll be cool if, since everybody's connected now with Facebook, it'll be cool to have something like an hour before sunset Friday called TGIF.
Yeah.
And it's geared towards busy young adults. So that way, as soon as they get home, no matter how tired they are, they can just log in on the Facebook and they can hear a sermon that's geared towards them, or see a video.
Yeah.
Something that's edifying and encouraging at the same time.
And there's your name. Booyah! Busy young adults. B-U-Y young A adults. Oh man, don't get you get my element now. But let me tell you, use your church's website. We're talking about people's eternal salvation. We're talking about tapping into things that we can use to increase the influence of the church in our community. Personal Ministries has so many opportunities today to help share and spread the message. The reason why a lot of folk aren't going out anymore is just because they don't have to.
That's right.
Most people that even make purchases, they do it online. But anyway, the organization, do you have to pay for the books?
Yes, I do.
That's the resources, right? Are they in place already, or do we have to raise them? Do we have to try
We
to?
just have to label them, but we have the books. We already have the books.
You already have the books. The structure, is there one person over the program that's helping the board, or is it a
Well,
group, a
I'm
committee?
I'm doing that. And maybe, I'm doing that too.
Okay, so you have all three elements in place, right? Again, with any program, you want to make sure all these, and ideally, if this part of the circle represents you got the organization and the resources, but no structure, right? That's this. In this part of the circle, you have the organization and the structure, but no resources, right? That's right here. You guys understand what I mean? And right here, in this part of the circle, these overlapping areas, you have structure is in here, you have resources here, but no organization. Ideally, the ideal place is to be where? Right here in the middle, where you have all three. So you can take that as an example, what we just did, and just thinking through all of this stuff. Make sure these elements are in place. It doesn't matter what it is. And if one element is not, then obviously we need to go back to the drawing board. And while we're on this, these three elements, the same thing is true in our personal and spiritual lives, right? Because along with doing the workshops at camp meeting, we would also do a workshop on the sanctuary. On the sanctuary. Right? You guys Is it looking like, is it coming there?
We
Okay.
use our imagination.
Okay, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate
Try
it.
to work with you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Here's the deal. The sanctuary teaches us that. Those three resources structure relationships, even for our own spiritual growth. Right? This represents the most holy place represents the Shekinah glory of God. Right? And in the holy place, you got three articles of furniture, right? You got what? The table of showbread, you got the candlesticks, and you got the what? The altar of incense, right? Right? The altar. All of these, I can't, this is personal mission, can't go into all of this, but I want to say the three elements are here as well. In the same way we need balance and structure when it comes to programs and programming and structure and resources, we need the same thing in our spiritual lives. Three disciplines to help us get closer to the presence of God. We need the prayer. That's the altar of incense. Right? Revelation 8:3. The incense ascended with the prayers of the saints. We need study. Right? The Word of God. Jesus said, I am the bread of life. The Word, the bread. And we also need to share and witness. Jesus said, I am the what? The light of the world. That's the golden candlesticks. And so here's what personally, spiritually, in order to get into the presence of God, we've got to go through this room. And this room is a symbol of the three disciplines we need in our own spiritual lives. We need prayer, we need to study, and we need to share. We need to witness. Now, I'm going to tell you how simple sanctification is. If I'm off kilter, if my relationship with God is off one day or 1 week, it's because I'm not spending time in one of these three areas.
Wow. That's correct.
It's just that simple. To get into the presence of God, you've got to go through that sanctification. So the outside of the sanctuary is justification. Because that's where the lamb is slain. Right? When I first saw the light. In this room represents sanctification. Got your prayer, study, and witnessing. Right? There's a veil here. When you get to the presence of God, when he comes back again, that's glorification. Can I close with this? Justification takes care of the penalty of sin. Sanctification takes care of the power of sin.
Come on.
Glorification takes us out of the presence of sin. These are the disciplines we need in order to engage in ministry for Christ. We have to get ourselves together, right? Before we go out reaching others. In terms of when we have this together, then we come back to the concentric circle. Organization, structure, resources. Come up with a plan. You can apply it to anything. Church related, business related, personally, doesn't matter. If you're planning a program or event, you want to make sure that all three of these are involved. Obviously, if you have a combination of two, get these two and pray for this. You got to have the organization, you got to have the structure. Any questions? Was this helpful?
You going to
I sure was. I wanted to, but man, is that true?
Yeah, we good. We still have some more time left.
Okay, this is our third presentation, and I did bad on 2 out of 3 so far on time. So I wanna honor to make sure we are not going over time. You guys okay? Do we need to take a break or anything? Or you stretch?
We can take 5. Take 5. Yes, we take 5.
Okay.
Okay.
Organization, structure, resources. If you're organized, if you have a structure for your program, wouldn't it be easier for you to get the resources because of the fact that you have organized? You got
Flesh and blood has not revealed that to you. No, I'm serious. I'm telling you, the greatest struggle that I've had working with groups is that very thing. Most folks are shooting for this first. They want the resources when they don't have this in place. They don't have the structure, or they have the work. I've had folks that come to a grant writing seminar without a nonprofit to get the grant for. They just want to write a grant. I said, how can you write a grant if you don't have an organization? You got, and you don't have a program. The program becomes under structure. So you're right, you're so right. As believers, that's why I'm saying, you know, in every occasion from Peter to the feeding of the 5,000, we haven't had a lot of resources. But if we pray, I mean, God owns a cattle on 1,000 hills. Let me tell you, I'll be honest, I'm gonna tell you, the experience that I've had over the last, especially 15 years, is it's not hard to get money. It sounds like it might be, because, well, how can you say that? We don't have any. Let me tell you, the hard thing is not getting money. The hard thing is getting organized. The hard thing is getting a structure in place. The hard thing is to be able, in one sentence, to be able to articulate exactly what you're trying to do. If you can do that, either in ministry or in business, this is going to start flowing. I'm going to tell you, the last ministry that we helped launch, it wasn't an adventist group. It was a non-adventist group. We did it in 18 months. And the reason why is because they had a lot of this already in place before I got there. I put together the organization. We filed the 501c3 and all that stuff. And guess what happened? 6 months into it, as we were getting the word out, we were connecting with groups in the community and helping and getting our brand out there. In Huntsville, Alabama, you know, Huntsville is one of the top defense contracting communities in the country, next to Silicon Valley and the group in in Texas, the Rocket City. Dynetics, one of the biggest industries in the country, they called us. And they said, well, we heard what you were doing, we want to give you some money. I never had that happen before. But the only reason they did is because they had these two pieces in place. And I said, well, look, I've never had to tell anyone we're not ready to receive money.
Wow.
And they called back 3 months later, invited us to their headquarters, and wrote us a check for $8,000. They said, you keep up doing what you're doing. They got it. They knew what we were trying to do, and they saw we were organized. Let me tell you, the same thing is going to happen in your churches. There are a lot of unbelievers out there that want to support initiatives and efforts out there that have no connection with our churches. But they're going to support your personal ministry's efforts because personal ministry, getting engaged in the community, is not just about giving Bible studies. You're ministering to the whole person.
Yes.
You're meeting their physical needs, their social, their relational needs, personal ministries, and community service, and whoever your health ministries director is. When you combine those three together,
Absolutely.
oh my goodness!
Can I give you a demonstration of why I said
Sure.
organization,
Resources?
structure, resources of
Yeah.
we have our health ministries have connected with an organization within the community called AVIPA. And so they work along with finding resources for people that's uninsured or uninsured. And they're starting a program that's called Praise Health, a program. And so what they did, they organized, they got the structure together of how they plan on reaching the community with the health and temperance program. They took it to Mission Hospital and explained to them what they wanted to do in the community. And as results of them having organized, got the structure, now Mission Hospital is sponsoring the event that they're having at the end of this month.
Wow.
And they're inviting all the churches within, especially the northern churches within the community. They're having a health convention as a result of organization, structure, and they went and presented that program to Mission Hospitals, and now they're sponsoring it.
I'm gonna share this with you. We're gonna break. I was in D.C. Congressional Black Caucus in Congress. We got all of the black representatives. They have a caucus. They sponsor this event called the Health Disparities Conference. I go every year. And the first year I went, it was at the invitation of pharmaceutical companies, the big name pharmaceutical companies. They have a big lobby in Congress. They got a lot of money. Anyway, they sponsored pastors from around the country to come to this conference. And the reason why they wanted pastors to come, or they wanted to connect with the religious community, specifically the African American ministers, is because the pharmaceutical companies were experiencing disparities in their when they're testing new drugs. You know, before any drug goes to market, it has to be tested in clinical trials. And they were finding that a lot of the new drugs coming on the market were having adverse reaction in African Americans. And they didn't know why. And they figured it out. The reason why is because they don't have a large enough sample in the clinical trials. They need more African Americans to participate. Now, you know, we don't do clinical trials.
Yeah.
You know, Tuskegee, you guys, you know, syphilis or all that stuff. We just, you know, we don't want to experiment on us again, you know. And so they were trying to figure out how can we build trust in the African American community. They said we need to bring the preachers in and share with them what we're doing and see if we can help. And so they did. They flew us up to DC, man. We stayed at the Waldorf, one of these big fancy hotels, man. Table so long I couldn't even see the other end. But they had us all in this conference room, right? And they had everybody. There were representatives from African American mega ministries all over the country, from Jake's, and all of them were there. And so in the meeting, one of the ministers, I mean, we're talking about churches that have ATM machines on the campus.
Mercy.
Okay, they have fast food. Yeah, fast food restaurants on the campus of the church. Now, when we say campus, we're not talking about one building. We're talking about, you know, yeah. So somebody raised the question. They said, well, we don't mind helping them, but we were thankful they brought us in and were kind enough to share. She said, but wouldn't it be better, rather than give our folks these drugs, would it be better to operate on the preventive side and keep them from getting sick in the first place? That's the question. That's the question they raised. And then one of the other preachers, now I came with a delegation from Mississippi, right? One of them said, well, where are the Seventh-day Adventists?
Wow.
That's what they asked.
Come on.
They said they've been doing this stuff a long time. They said, where are they?
Wow.
I happened to be in the room that day. And until then, I was incognito. And I did one of those little Baptist fingers, you know. And I told them I was there representing the Jackson community, but I am a Seventh-day Adventist. And there is a lot that we can't offer. No, we haven't been at the table.
That's right.
But we're here now. They started 10 years ago. They started a health ministries in First Day churches. They started the organization there at the table. It's a real organization, national organization focused on providing health ministries to churches. And they base it off of our model.
Yeah. Wow. That's right.
That's what we're doing in Asheville.
Yeah. Anyway, you know, we'll take 5 minutes. We'll take 5 minutes. Kevin will be.
There's water in the back. We'll take a few minutes and then we'll come take our pictures.
Yeah.
And we'll move on. Yeah. Okay, good. We're well. Yeah. Take 15 minutes and we'll come back. All right? Yeah, all right.